This particular hearing in Great Britain, this was of its first kind, perhaps, regarding Pakistan, where Pakistan's democratic credentials are being judged by even Pakistanis and by the British parliamentarians.
The current conflict afoot in Gaza, but I have not come across any such hearing on the plight of Palestinians or the state of democracy in Israel. India also has a very questionable record. Amnesty International, Journalists Without Borders have raised concerns about the plight of journalists. Why so much interest in Pakistan?
A Pakistani political party, but Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the people are there in Great Britain. Those who have good connections with the parliamentarians in the United Kingdom, you donate them money, you can get them engaged in any kind of political debate. So this is happening in the United States. This is happening in the United Kingdom.
Perhaps the PMLN representative or People's Party representative or ANP representative, MQM representative, and Jamaat Islami representative should also be invited. It's very interesting why they were not consulted to hear their perspective on the state of democracy in Pakistan. That perhaps one particular party is not trying to misguide and use the prestigious forum of House of Lords for its own political agenda. That is something I think the honorable members of House of Lords and its leadership must seriously and timely consider.
The problem with the PTI is that they don't get in coalition with other political parties. They don't have that appetite. They don't engage with other political parties. They believe that they will only run the entire system if they are single-handedly given the power. So they want to have a complete monopoly. No, this is a parliamentary system. You are not popular in every province. You are not popular in every constituency.
Those parliamentarians who have interest in Pakistani politics should also raise the concern regarding PTI's lack of substantive support for the counterterrorism operation in the province which they are ruling right now. Viewers, very warm welcome to another episode of V News English program Perspectives. Viewers, today we are going to discuss a very interesting event which took place in London yesterday in the House of Lords, where a hearing was held regarding democracy and human rights situation in Pakistan. I think Pakistan is an important country, and a lot of international countries have significant interest in whatever goes on in Pakistan. But there are several aspects of this particular hearing which deserve detailed analysis and discussion, that why this was held, how this was held, and what was discussed in it, and whether it is going to have any impact on Pakistani politics or not. So in order to discuss all this, we are joined today by one of Pakistan's most sought after and leading political analyst and executive director of an emerging think tank, Sanobar Institute, Dr. Cheema. Dr. Cheema, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Syed Mohammad Ali, for having me.
So, Dr. Cheema, I'm sure you heard this hearing. What do you make of it? Democracy, I'm sure, is an interesting subject in the Western world and the established democracies like the United Kingdom. But have you come across similar such hearings on the state of democracy and human rights of other countries around the world? Or do you think this particular hearing was something special?
Well, I think this is a very significant hearing in a way that it seems that certain players try to have this hearing about Pakistan, and those players were from Pakistan and those players from United Kingdom. As you asked the question that do other countries are also discussed in such kind of hearings, I have just seen that hundreds of students have been killed in Bangladesh, and we have seen that on the level of democracy, on the level of the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression, and they were expressing the fundamental rights, but there is no discussion in the British Parliament, maybe, or even any of there is no hearing on that. So, regarding many other countries in the world, I haven't seen that other countries' democracies, the stature of the democracy, or the level of the democracy, or the credentials of the democracy are being discussed in Great Britain. And at the end of the day, there are many people in Pakistan who really believe that why there are so many countries in the world who want to know about Pakistan's democracy. Well, people have voted on 8th February this year, and their representative have come in power. And at the end of the day, if there is something which the people believe is not as per the constitution, then there are forums within the Pakistani state, and those forums do address the matters related to those issues. If the polling have not been conducted properly, or if there is something related to counting, the courts are taking deciding matters related to that. But this particular impression coming from Western world and Great Britain and a few other countries that they have a job to discuss about the democratic credentials of other countries, I think this is taking as an insult in many developing countries, and particularly in countries where the democracy is taking steps like Pakistan. Back in 2007, when the former dictator left, stopped ruling, and we are now back to a democracy. We are back to the democratic path, and the nations they take the course and they follow the democratic path, and it's a very, very slowly and easily, and it's not something where you can pressurize any country. It's not something where you can force any country, you have to take this part. But the people of Pakistan, they have always stood with democracy. They stood with the constitution. They do not let the extra constitutional forces to rule the country. But this particular hearing in Great Britain, this was of its first kind, perhaps, regarding Pakistan, where Pakistan's democratic credentials have been are being judged by even Pakistanis and by the British parliamentarians, and not by all the parliamentarians, but a couple of parliamentarians of one political party. So I think this is something very important in that matter.
But let me ask you that since we are discussing the interest in the state of democracy in Pakistan, in London, in history, you know very well that there have been several countries with really questionable record of democracy and human rights, like the apartheid regime in South Africa, which was very close to London, and former leader Nelson Mandela was a prisoner for decades, but no such questions or concerns were raised there. The current conflict afoot in Gaza, and the Israeli democracy is also, involved in formally authorizing, supporting, and endorsing the killing and dehumanization and dislocation of millions of Palestinians from their land. But I have not come across any such hearing on the plight of Palestinians or the state of democracy in Israel. Similarly, the world's largest democracy in our eastern neighbor, India, I think also has a very questionable record. Amnesty International, Journalists Without Borders have raised concerns about the plight of journalists in not just mainland India, but the occupied territories of India, including Jammu and Kashmir. So why so much interest in Pakistan?
Well, Mr. Ali, you have rightly mentioned that there are other democracies around the world which have a very shady character. You have mentioned about Israel, and particularly in this regard, that why Pakistan. I think there are two ways to look at that. First, a Pakistani political party, but Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. The people are there in Great Britain. Those who have good connections with the parliamentarians in the United Kingdom. One thing. So, for example, if you see that in this hearing, Meher Banu Qureshi, who is a daughter of Shah Mahmood Qureshi, the former foreign minister and the vice chairman of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, she was there. And so it was something where and then Mr. Zulfi Bukhari, who has very good connections with the parliamentarians in Great Britain, who is also one of the person who spoke about there, and he's representing former Prime Minister Imran Khan to the international media, and he has already lobbied at different international forums. So one thing is that the Pakistani politicians, they are trying to create a sort of a situation in the Western, democratic institutions that look, democracy is not good. And the Pakistanis, who are the Pakistani diaspora, which is abroad, they have connections within Great Britain, with the parliamentarians in Great Britain. And, it's very easy to engage the parliamentarians in West, because the moment you give them, you donate them money, you can get them engaged in any kind of political debate. So this is happening in the United States. This is happening in the United Kingdom. So the parliamentarians who are speaking, the British parliamentarians who are speaking about Pakistan's democracy, they have direct friendships and connections with the members of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. So it was very easy for the PTI, Mr. Zulfi Bukhari and Mehrbano Qureshi and the party to mobilize their friends and ask. So, by the way, Mr. Ali, what do you make of that? Why they're so much mobilized when Pakistan needs unity, when Pakistan needs to gel. We have our own people who are trying to give an impression to the international audience everything is not good in the country.
I think it's a valid question, Dr. Chima, but as you yourself pointed out, notwithstanding the content and the subject, the method and the process according to which this hearing was organized and held also raises some very important questions about its motives and purposes. Because if at all there has to be a political or an academic exercise to study the state of democracy in Pakistan, then perhaps there are other parties which command equal respect and representation from different walks of life in parts of Pakistan, which should have been engaged to have a more inclusive and comprehensive and independent assessment of how the things are in Pakistan. Perhaps the PMLN representative or People's Party representative or ANP representative, MQM representative, and Jamaat Islami representative should also be invited, because they also have significant following and influence in Pakistan and deserve to be heard. If at all, there has to be a serious, independent and informed and inclusive exercise to study democracy in Pakistan. But on a lighter note, some of the leaders of some of the other parties like MQM are actually resident in London for decades. It's very interesting why they were not consulted to hear their perspective on the state of democracy in Pakistan. But only two individuals belonging to a certain party were invited and given the prestigious forum of House of Lords to promote their agenda, raises questions about its motive. And I think the House of Lords, other honorable members need to look into it, that perhaps one particular party is not trying to misguide and use the prestigious forum of House of Lords for its own political agenda. That is something I think the honorable members of House of Lords and its leadership must seriously and timely consider. But let me come to the third question, because only two members, Mr. Zulfi Bukhari and the daughter of former Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, were invited to give their perspective on the state of democracy. Mr. Zulfi Bukhari and Mehrbano Qureshi raised concerns about how the elections were held in Pakistan. But several international observers visited Pakistan and closely observed the entire process. I do not recall similar concerns being raised by international observers. Uh, because do you agree with this perspective of PTI? Because if they have concerns about the process, then how could they gain such a significant and large mandate? They have a large. They're the largest party in the National Assembly right now.
Mr. Ali, you're absolutely right. They have a government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. That is one thing. They have a very important number of candidates in the National Assembly, and the people have come in big number. People have voted for that party, which is visible. We can see that in the National Assembly. They will also have definitely representation in the Senate and the upper house when the Senate elections are conducted. That is one thing. The second thing, what you are mentioning, I think over the period of time, they believe that it is more important that you should keep challenging the state, you should keep challenging the institutions, you should keeping busy the entire system so that their voices are heard, and somehow they believe that they are the only political player in the country, or maybe they are the one who can run the country. So on this matter, if they do not trust the way things are, I think they need to wait for the next 5 years. For example, if you remember in 2018, they were not even accepting the mandate they got. So in the 2018, Prime Minister Imran Khan was elected and thought that we have more seats. And we could have got more seats. And since he became the prime minister, so he didn't question the entire process because he emerged as a single largest party. But right now, even PTI is going to be the single largest party if the Supreme Court verdict is implemented. One thing. So in that matter. But the problem with the PTI is that they don't get in coalition with other political parties. They don't have that appetite. They don't engage with other political parties. They believe that they will only run the entire system if they are single-handedly given the power. So they want to have a complete monopoly. No, this is a parliamentary system. You are not popular in every province. You are not popular in every constituency. You have limitations. Like PMLN is not popular in Balochistan. Their local leaders are. So the People's Party is not popular in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So I think they need to accept the results the way they are. One thing. Secondly, if they really doubt that they can perform better or they can have more seats, then they should perform good as a opposition party, so that in next 2023 elections they can come as a better in a electoral position, and they can form the government single-handedly. So since they have failed to form the single-handedly government, that means they should question the entire process. I think this is a disservice to the nation, because at this time we just need political stability. We need continuity. We need to move forward because already we are facing economic challenges. So in my understanding, this is what is required, rather than challenging the entire process while being part of the system. You are taking the perks and privileges of the system, but you do not like the system where you are not in majority. I think this is not a democratic behavior at all. What do you make of that?
Yes, that is, I agree with you, but I also want to know that notwithstanding this hearing in the House of Lords on the state of democracy in Pakistan, I do not recall any similar concern being expressed by the number 10 Downing Street or Whitehall. I have not heard anything from the British government to this effect, which continue to emphasize, and their High Commissioner in Islamabad has a lot of friends, and she keeps meeting all power brokers, all stakeholders in Islamabad and Pindi, and seems to try to improve the relations between London and Islamabad. And I do not recall any official statement which shared similar concerns regarding Pakistan's democratic credentials. So what do you make of it? Do you think, should we take this hearing seriously, or should we just take it as a attempt by PTI to lobby within a few like-minded politicians in UK in order to pressurize Pakistan?
Well, I think this is the friends who are sitting for the coffee. I just take it that way. Okay, they were sitting in the British Parliament rather than sitting in a cafe somewhere in London, central London.
They are not
So
cabinet members, so they are not.
yes,
They do not represent the official view of the government.
yes, obviously they are not the cabinet members, and I think the most important point here is that yes. The British government, the American government, the rest of the governments. For example, if you just see that the President Biden sent a letter to Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif. So, what do you make of that? There is a high-level coordination. Just yesterday, the Foreign Minister Isaac Dar has spoken to the British Foreign Secretary. So, there is a high-level coordination and cooperation with the Western countries, particularly Great Britain, United States, and the other European countries, and they are very much fine with the Pakistan's democratic process. Yes, some of the concerns have been raised regarding because this is the competition plus the political conflict in the country is very is high. Obviously, the PTI and the political actors, they are at loggerheads with each other, so they are in competition. But as far as the day of election was concerned, normally there was no violence. People went for voting. People took part of the people went for voting. They cast the vote, and at the end of the day, there was a result that was shown, and the election commission announced everything, and they went to the parliament. And at the end of the day, the governments have been formed. The high courts are the Supreme Court is there in the country, which can go for any extent in protecting the constitution. So, if we believe that some parliamentarians of a third country or a second country, they better understand Pakistan's democratic credentials, and they can challenge or they can raise opinion which can harm Pakistan. I don't believe this is going to bring any result. But yes, I understand the friends met for coffee, but they thought we should meet in a British Parliament. We should give it a name, a formal hearing. And yes, we have seen in the past that the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf have lobbied heavily in United States. For example, I just saw that a U.S. congressman met the U.S. State Department people, and he's talking about everything bad about Pakistan's democracy. And when it comes to India, he asked that we should increase the number of diplomats in India so that they are issued more visas. But when it comes to Pakistan, everything which is told by the PTI folks, the congressmen keep on saying to the State Department. So same is in the Great Britain, but the level of the trust and friendship between Pakistan and the UK and other countries is very much fine. But yes, this is something where some people with their own ulterior motives, they want to achieve certain goals. But I don't believe it will make an impact. But yes, for a moment, it seems that the media is covering it or the British Parliament is raising these questions. But these are a couple of parliamentarians who have their good friendships with the PTI folks.
But you would recall, Dr. Chima, that the British Chief of Defence Staff recently visited Pakistan and met Pakistan's army chief and other senior military officers, and both countries' militaries are, they have long-standing close ties and are also involved in joint exercises, joint training, and other areas of mutual cooperation. Don't you think those parliamentarians who have interest in Pakistani politics should also raise the concern regarding PTI's lack of substantive support for the counterterrorism operation in the province which they are ruling right now? Because I think terrorism is a global concern, and Pakistan, in order to decisively defeat terrorism, expects all its political parties to fully support this campaign, and the support which is critical, particularly in the province most affected by terrorism, KPK, which is being run by PTI, deserves greater support and commitment from PTI than it is currently offering.
Well, you are absolutely right, and up to the mark. I think the British, the security forces do understand Pakistan's contribution in war against terrorism, and they know the way Pakistan's armed forces have fought against terrorism and the way they are fighting till now. And since we understand that there are many transnational terrorist organizations operating from Afghanistan, so there is a very close cooperation with the Great Britain of and Pakistan in fighting the terrorist organization. And for that matter, we have been telling them that they need to support us and pressurize Afghan Taliban. Why are they hosting? And in the same fashion, I think this question should have been raised there in that hearing, that the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has a government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa where we are facing highest number of terrorist incidents, and the province has a border which is linked with the Afghanistan, and the terrorist organizations are operating in Afghanistan, and the political government in the government, the provincial government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, they are very reluctant in castigating the activities of terrorist organizations, and rather even they are not going at the funerals of the martyrs of the Pakistan Armed Forces. And I think these kind of issues, they need to be raised, and I think the British Parliament must be aware that what is the contribution of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf when it comes to fighting terrorism. It was former Prime Minister Imran Khan who decided to bring back the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan from Afghanistan. All the thousands of the TTP folks who came in Pakistan, they came in Pakistan from Afghanistan because the former Prime Minister did want that they should come Pakistan because they are Pakistanis and they cannot live in Afghanistan. That was his point. So what is his contribution? And if you remember, the former General Musharraf called Imran Khan as a Taliban Khan, knowing that he always had a soft corner for the militants. So I think in that capacity, the Great Britain and the other rest of the Western powers, they have contributed a lot in fighting terrorism, and the British forces have been in Afghanistan, and this question should have been raised. By the way, Mr. Ali, why do you think why this particular entire discussion was very selective, and why it didn't discuss the other issues which the Pakistani state is facing?
I think that's a very valid question, Dr. Chima. And conspicuous by absence is a more significant national security issue that the Pakistani state is currently facing in an unprecedented manner. Whether it's Pakistani judiciary, whether it's Pakistan Army, whether it's Pakistan intelligence services, whether it's the police services, all are, being daily targeted through digital terrorism by individuals who are based in different countries, including the United Kingdom. I think there needs to be a discussion, a serious discussion at the diplomatic and military level, bilaterally, regarding those individuals who are trying to sow discord, destabilize Pakistan, and promote anarchy within the country, particularly with those friends who value Pakistan's stability, Pakistan's security, and Pakistan's progress, like London. That is something very important. And another aspect which I felt was missing from this hearing was the questions from the honorable members of the House of Lords, from the PTI representatives who were testifying at this hearing, that how can they expect to uphold, defend, and promote democracy when their leaders and activists have directly invaded Pakistan's army headquarters, Pakistan's intelligence offices, Pakistan's Corps Commander residences, and have actively lobbied, organized, incited, and encouraged people to attack Pakistan's military installations and headquarters. For us, it was similar to how the British people and the British nation faced the 7/7, and the attitude, the approach of the British state and the government was no nonsense towards terrorists, towards anarchists, and towards those who try to promote chaos within the country. So in order to preserve democracy, in order to stabilize the country, in order to increase our prosperity and economic growth, like any other peace-loving country, Pakistan also, like Britain, expects all its citizens, including those who belong to any particular political party, to respect the constitution and the legal and constitutional obligations, and enjoy and exercise their right of expression, right to protest, right to organize themselves, right to engage in political activities, as long as these are conducted according to constitutional and legal requirements. The fundamental freedoms, such as those of expression and politics, cannot be used to attack the state and create anarchy and chaos within the country. So, Dr. Chima, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your very candid, bold, and insightful analysis. Like always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us, and keep watching our program Perspectives on V News English for more candid, informed, and timely discussions. Thank you.